W5FC. Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
I need to use the repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet. Here's KF5PDS. My name is Billy, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with time and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? The directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me. And stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmission. Weekly net operates on 146.880 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9. Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics, astronomy charts, pictures, and live audio-video links are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. And remember to tell others about this popular net. All amateur operators are welcome. You do not need to be a member of any amateur radio club to participate. The net is 90 minutes long and is structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look through a telescope, National Space Society events, discussion topic of the evening, Was Up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, astronomical discoveries, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and our semi-tree round. Amateurs licensed to transmit on this frequency are invited to check in. So this time, I'll turn the net over to my alternate net control, Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll do the check-in honors, please. From KF5 TDS.
And thank you, Billy. This is Kilo Echo 5, India Charlie X-Ray. My name is Tom. KE5ICX is my call sign. I'll go ahead and take low power short time check-ins first. If you are one of those, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Let me know if you're low power short time.
This is Whiskey 5, Golf Uniform Sierra, Gus, car far northeast Dallas, and low power.
This is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Papa Lima Lima, Huey, East Richardson, low power.
This is Whiskey Bravo number 4, Mike Foxtrot India, WB4MFI, Ted Dallas, low power.
Kilo 5, Mike Charlie Delta, Cody in Dallas, low power.
Okay, I picked up 4. I've got WB4MFI, Ted, Dallas, low power. W5GUS, Gus, far northeast Dallas, low power. KF5PLL, Huey, Richardson, low power. K5MCD, Cody, Dallas, low power. Any other low power or short time stations? All right, hearing none, let me go ahead and ask those stations checked in. If you have anything you would like to bring to the net now before you fade into the ether, please come with your call. Okay, hearing none, we'll go ahead and do general check-ins. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. General check-ins.
November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving.
Kilo, Golf, 5, Uniform, Foxtrot, Romeo, KG5 UFR, Jacob, Dallas.
Kilo, Foxtrot 5, Zulu, Bravo, Lima, Bill, Palmer's Branch.
Alpha Alpha 5, Alpha Hotel, Robert Richardson.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike, Tony in Dallas.
This is Alpha Golf 9er, Sierra Golf, Antonio in Dallas.
Okay, let me go ahead and get those folks checked in. I've got N5BB, Bill in Irving, KG5 UFR, Jacob in Dallas, K5ZBL, Mr. Bill, Farmers Branch, AA5AH, Robert in Richardson, NT5TM, Tony in Dallas, AG9SG, Antonio in Dallas. Additional check-ins, please come now.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, Mesquite, Planet Earth.
Okay, picked up one more, KF5JHA, Chaz, in Mesquite, and Planet Earth. I guess they're both in the same place, but who knows? All right, I will go to Echolink. I think there's a couple of people out there. Echolink only, if you'd please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from. I will give you extra time. Echolink only, please.
India 5, Kilo Whiskey Golf, Cruise, hovering just above Hazlitt, KI5, KWG.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot in Fort Worth, Virginia, running late.
This is Kilo 5, Kilo Tango X-Ray, Kelly in Point.
Very good. We picked up 3 more. I got KI5KWG. That's Cruise over in Hazlitt. NV5F, Virginia, in Fort Worth. I'm marking you tardy. K5KTX, Miss Kelly in Point. I'll now open it up to any mode, anywhere. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo India 5, Uniform, Juliet, Dustin, mobile in Dallas.
Kilo Charlie 5, Pop Alpha, Mike Richard, Fort Worth.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey, John in Coppell.
And we picked up 3 more. I've got KI5UUJ, that's Dustin. He's mobile in Dallas. KC5PAM, Richard in Fort Worth. K5JDW, John in Coppell. Anyone else before we begin the net? Please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from. Okie dokie, Miss Billy, we are up to 19 check-ins. So back to you, KE5 ICX.
Thanks very much, Tom, and welcome to all who have checked in on Skynet. All right, let's get started with general announcements. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? Ham, astronomical space, or of general interest for Ham. So if you have an announcement for this evening's net, your call sign.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. November 5, Bravo Bravo.
We'll start with NT5TM. Tony, good evening. What announcements do you have for us this evening?
Good evening, Billy. Always good to hear you. This Monday is GeekNet. Please bring your news of the weird, the strange, and the geeky, and questions about any subject that you like to geek out about are welcome. This net is on this repeater, 146.88 at 1900 local time this Monday. The Dallas Marathon will be taking place on Sunday, December 10th, and they still need volunteers. You can email John Galvin, N5TIM. I believe he's good on QRZ. You can search in your favorite search engine for Dallas Marathon Comms to find the sign-up form, or you can scroll down on W5SC.org, go down a few posts, and you'll find a sign-up link. Again, they need 100 people or more to really make this event safe and smooth, so please sign up and do your part if you haven't already. And again, that's John Galvin, November 5, Tango, India Mike. Yes, his call sign spells Tim, but his name is John. The DARC Pizza Party is coming up on Tuesday, December 5th. That's not this Tuesday, it's a week from this Tuesday, December 5th. Bring some food to share and a funny video for the party. We usually bring pizza or things that go with pizza, or maybe salad or dessert. We meet up at 7 p.m., for our party at our usual meeting location in the Dallas Medical Center, the third floor community room of the main hospital building. And finally, if you haven't got enough pizza party in, have some barbecue. The Dallas Amateur Radio Club Winter Diner, or Dinner, our winter banquet, is coming up on Thursday, December 7th. We'll be meeting at the Sonny Bryan's Barbecue on Campbell Road in Richardson at 6:30 on Sunday, December 7th. Be there or be hungry somewhere else. NT5TM, back to Annette.
Thanks very much, Tony. Appreciate all those great announcements. Next up, N5BB, Bill, what announcements do you have for us this evening?
Hi, Billy. KF5BDS in the group N5BB. I'll have more information at the National Space Society information later. But I wanted to make sure that everybody heard it because this is a short notice kind of announcement. I just found out about it last night. There will be a talk by Alexandro Arroyo, who is a NASA Solar System ambassador, in Capel at the library there, the William T. Cosby Library Meeting Room B, on Tuesday. This coming Tuesday, 7 p.m. This coming Tuesday, November the 28th. The subject will be the NASA Human Landing System, which is going to be landing on the moon, a part of the Artemis program. So there'll be an hour-long presentation there on Tuesday. It will be in person and it will be virtual. But to get to the virtual thing, all I've got is something I have to email to you. They want you to sign up in advance also for either in person or virtual. So if you would like to participate either in person or virtually, watching a 1-hour presentation about the NASA Human Landing System, part of the Artemis program, by a NASA Solar System ambassador, please send me an email. This is space@byram.net. Again, my email is space@byrom.net. Or you can also try n5bb@arrl.net, which may not be quite as reliable. Again, the location is on Beltline Road in Capel. Excuse me, the extension of Beltline Road, Denton Tap Road in Capel. That's all I got, N5BB.
Kilo 5, Juliet, Delta Whiskey with a question.
If it has any announcements, if so, please come now with your call sign.
I believe K5JDW may have had a question. NT5TM.
Flight Group has 2 nets available to Dallas residents on Tuesday evenings at 8 p.m. Central Time. You'll need Echolink installed and used. You can find the net under Groups and AMSAT. Also, a live audio link is available on their website at www.amsatnet.com. This net originates in Houston, Texas. Dallas AMSAT Net East, Dallas-Fort Worth, Texas, is every Tuesday at 8 p.m. on this repeater, 146.880 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9. Tom N5HYP is the net control. All are welcome to check in. The first Tuesday of the month is the BARC Club night, so there's no AMSAT East on that night. The Dallas AMSAT Net West is every Wednesday at 9 p.m. on the Arlington repeater, 147.140 megahertz, with a PL tone of 110.9 and a positive offset. BARC hosts Monday night nets. First Monday of the month is Ham Fixin's net. Come to this net to get ready or get a question about food answered. Second Monday of the month is MCOM 101, Emergency Communication. The third Monday, come back for a second helping of Ham Fixin's net. And as Tony mentioned, on the fourth Monday is Geek Net. And if there's ever a fifth Monday net, that is a surprise net. If we told you what it is, it wouldn't be a surprise. On-air participation is encouraged. This is AMSAT Net East. Info and news for amateur satellites at 8 p.m. Fridays, Church City simulation at 8 p.m. About emergency radio communications via CERT-trained amateur radio operator. The KI5GRH is usually the net control. It's the most disaster-prone city in the universe every Friday, CERT City. All are welcome. Saturdays is the Night of Net with TechNet from 7 to 8 p.m. Of course, at 9 p.m., Skynet. And following Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net at 10:30. More on that in a moment. And third Sundays is the Dallas Amateur Radio being on the air. There is the ARRL Net, National Traffic System Training Net, every night at 6:30 p.m. Central Time. All are welcome to check in on any or all of these nets. And as I mentioned, following Skynet at 10:30 on Saturday night is the Afterglow Movie Net. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX, if you'll give us tonight's Afterglow info from KF5 CDS.
Yeah, thank you, Billy. Yes, the Afterglow Movie Net. We have another winner, Nova, from 2022. Although these small art house type films or low budget films, they kind of come out and 2 or 3 people see them with a date, but then they actually get a wider release later on. So it varies. It's either 2021 or 2022. I think the official release date is year is 2022. So here we go. Nova really had a stupid crew of humans and androids. One crew member accidentally spaced himself thinking he had reached Earth. One flash later, and he was in deep space between Earth and Mars. She shook her head in disbelief. How stupid could these people be? Apparently, she was unaware of how deep this well of despair could be. A few seconds passed, and the astrogator Instapot machine needed a reset, and Nova was fixing the problem. Seconds after that, one of the androids she was in charge of accidentally put herself into Roomba mode and was vacuuming the flight deck with her nose. It was going to be a long day, and Mars was looking pretty big in the spacecraft window. Join us for another art house, maybe SF film, Nova from 2021 or 2022, you decide. And for those of you who are maybe listening and maybe going to watch it, Crip, while you're doing this, and make sure you pick the right movie. There's a lot of them called Nova. This is the one with the androids in it. You can't miss it. Back to you, Billy. Oh, by the way, there was a question from John. Let me see, which John was it? I forgot. K5JDW, John in Capella. He had a question about one of the previous announcements. That's it for me, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. And you can keep up with all the other BARC events, nets, and activities by going to the club website, w5fc.org. This is KF5CDS, Billy, you're at control for this session of the BARC Skynet. All right, let's get to that question. K5JDW, John, what is your question for the net? Please come now and ask your question.
Thanks, gang. This is directed to N5BB. I was trying to clarify the location of the library. The only library in Coppell I know is on Hartz, unless there is another one on Denton Tap. Just come back with a clarification. Kilo 5, Julia, Delta Whiskey.
This is Internet BB. Permission to talk to K5JDW directly?
BB, you have my permission to talk to John directly from KF5 CDS.
Thank you, Billy. John, it's right off of Denton Tap. I was going to talk about it more during the National Space Center Society section. That's why I didn't get into the details. The location is Meeting Room B as in Bravo, 177 North Hertz, spelled Heartz Road, Coppell, Texas 75019. It's real close to Denton Tap Road. I apologize. I was going to give these details later. N5BB.
Hey, copy that. Appreciate it. Back to net. K5 GDW.
I'm glad we got your question answered. Thanks for the clarification. Next up is Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, where and when you can look at the scope. But this time I'll call on Chaz, KFK, if you'll give us information the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas from KSI's CDS.
Thank you, Billy. Good evening, everyone. It was great to see several of you at Turkey Trot on Thursday, and including Mr. Ironman. That's what I'm calling Tom right now. Maybe you can explain that later on the net, why I'm calling Mr. Ironman. Oh, Slide Master, slide number 12. That's Mr. Ironman. There is no Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas meeting in December because there's an awards banquet. The next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting will be held on Friday, January the 26th, 2024. The meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person and on Zoom. In person, it's going to be at the University of Texas at Dallas. The featured speaker is Ken Surrock from the Denver Astronomical Society, talking about the Chamberlain Observatory. I guess he's going to be giving us a tour, virtually anyway. Saturday night public observing sessions continue. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights so that there would be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. Tonight, on the fourth Saturday, the stargazing would have been held at Rockwall. But tonight's stargazing was canceled due to the clouds, and right now it's been raining here at my place on Mesquite for a while. You can check the TASS website, texasastro.org, for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5 JHA. Back to our net control. Billy, it's great to hear you.
Thank you so much, Chaz. Next up is National Space Society events and activities. So at this time, I'll return the net to Bill and 5DD. The net is yours for National Space Society from KFI CDS.
I'm sorry, did you call on me, Billy? This is N5BB.
It's affirmative. I did, sir. Look forward to your report on National Space Society events.
Okay, thank you very much. I'm sorry, I was away from the radio. This is N5BB. I am the membership director and the member at large for the National Space Society North Texas chapter. We have several events coming up, and one event just passed. As I've described many times before, we have a monthly social event open to anybody. You do not have to be a chapter member or a member of the National Space Society. And this event is in North Irving on the last Friday of each month at 6 p.m. at a restaurant. We've now moved it to Cheddar's Restaurant, which is located about half a block east of MacArthur Boulevard on the south frontage road of Highway 635 in Irving. This is between the north entrance of DFW Airport, where the road 121 intersects 635, and I-35E. Again, this is on the last Friday of every month. So the last Friday of November was yesterday, and we had 10 members there. We had actually 9 members and 1 guest, and it was a great event. We'd like to see some of you there. You're welcome to come. For dinner and discussion about space-related topics. So that was a past event. Here are the future events that are coming up for National Space Society. This is Inside PB. This is Skynet. The event, I promised you I'd give you more details now. The event is coming Tuesday is by a NASA Space Ambassador, and this event is in Capel, and the location of the time of the event is 7 to 8 p.m. this coming Tuesday, November the 28th. So this coming Tuesday, 7 p.m. in Capel. You need to, they would like you to RSVP in advance, and it's an email address that I can't easily give it to you. I mean, I could, but it's really, really, really long because it's a Google Forms address. So if you want to attend this event, you really should email me. My email address is space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. And I will send you back the link so you can sign up for attending. You can also attend remotely via some kind of, I don't know if it's Zoom or WebEx or what, but you can attend remotely or in person. Again, this is at the William T. Cosby Library, 177 North Hertz Road in Capel, Meeting Room B. So that's the big event coming up here on Tuesday. Before I continue, does anybody have any additional questions about that event? If so, please come now. Okay, this is Inside BB. The next event for the National Space Society is our holiday party, which is going to be during our December meeting. Our meetings are normally the second Sunday evening of every month. Our holiday party is going to start at 1 p.m. on Sunday, December the 10th, and it'll be at my house. And I'm hosting the party at my new house. So the location is 1025 Lane Street, Lane Street in Irving. I would like you to RSVP if you're going to be here, or we won't have enough food and other. You need to get the link from me that tells you how to sign up for bringing sides, potato chips or salads or vegetables or cheese or whatever you want to bring. Again, if you'd like to go to the National Space Society holiday party, you need to contact me, space@byrom.net. That's SPACE at BYROM.net. And we are going to ask you to join to attend since we're paying for the meets. So that's the big event coming up on the 10th of December. And that's all the immediate things we have coming up in the next couple of weeks. Thank you very much, Billy. This is Inside PB. Clear.
Bill, also want to throw in that the National Space Society of North Texas has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box and request access. You'll receive meeting reminders and here's KFI PDS. Billy, your next control for this session of the DARC Skynet. All right, next up is discussion topic of the evening. So for my topic, how astronauts celebrate Thanksgiving in space. There's a great article on this on Astronomy.com. It was published on November 23rd, 2023 by Elizabeth Camillo. Even space travelers get to enjoy a sumptuous holiday feast. Here's what's internationally inspired menu. So astronauts aboard the International Space Station will be far away from family and friends this Thanksgiving, but they'll still enjoy what sounds like a great meal. So by now they've had that great meal. So what did they have? So let's take a look. The SpaceX Dragon spacecraft docked and delivered supplies on November 11th that included holiday treats for the Expedition 70 crew from NASA. This year's menu included turkey, duck, quail, seafood, cranberry sauce, kits to make pizza, hummus, salsa, and olives. The crew can enjoy chocolate, pumpkin spice cappuccino, rice cakes, and mochi for dessert. That's not all. Oranges, apples, cherry tomatoes, carrots, and a selection of specialty cheeses were also prepped for the crew, said Dana Weigel, the Deputy Program Manager of the International Space Station Program. In NASA's media teleconference for the SpaceX CR-29 pre-launch. There's quite a bit of science to eating in space. NASA explains it well in a video that's posted on the Astronomy.com website for this article. The food is specially prepared at NASA's Space Food Systems Laboratory to be nutritious, tasty, and safe to eat in space. It's pressed sealed in plastic packets to ensure a long shelf life. The food can easily be reheated or refrigerated. Let's take a look at some of the previous holiday meals celebrated in low Earth orbit, beginning with the first in 1976. First Thanksgiving in space was celebrated aboard Skylab 4, which launched on November 16, 1973. November 22nd, 1973, astronauts Gerald T. Carr, William E. Pogue, and Edward G. Gibson celebrated with 2 meals at dinner time after the team completed a spacewalk that took 6 hours and 33 minutes. The meals did not include any special items to celebrate the holiday. I think they meant 1973, not 1970. Thanksgiving in space in the 1980s. The next time astronauts were in space for Thanksgiving was in 1985. This time they indulged in festive food. After launching into space aboard Space Shuttle Atlantis on November 26, 1985, the crew shared shelf-stable turkey, cranberry sauce, and shrimp cocktails. Eaten in space must be irradiated. The process reduces the number of foodborne pathogens and parasites in the meat, making it safe to be stored for months, per The Independent. Tortillas, introduced by astronaut Mary Vela, were also on the menu and have become a staple in space since then. This flat food item does not drop crumbs, which makes it ideal for meals in zero gravity, according to a press release. In 1989, the STS-33 crew celebrated Thanksgiving on the Discovery orbiter. Later in 1991, the STS-44 crew had a holiday dinner on the Atlantis orbiter. Astronauts aboard 2 different spacecraft in different orbits celebrated Thanksgiving in the mid-90s. STS-80 astronauts Kent V. Rominger, Tamara E. Jernigan, Dory Musgrave, Thomas D. Jones, and Kenneth B. Cockrell share a meal on the Columbia orbiter's mid-deck. At the same time, NASA astronaut John E. Blaha celebrated Thanksgiving on the Russian space station Mir with cosmonauts Valery G. Korzun and Alexander Y. Teleri. Both crews exchanged holiday greetings over the radio. The occasion marks the most astronauts in space on Thanksgiving Day. The record was broken in 1997 when NASA astronaut David A. Wolf, Russian cosmonauts Anatoly Y. Solovyev, and Pavel V. Vinogradov were on Mir. At this time, the STS-87 crew was also in orbit on the Columbia orbiter, setting the record for 9 astronauts in space on Thanksgiving Day. The crew on Mir ate milk, peas, freeze-dried mashed potatoes, and turkey. November 23, 2000, astronauts of the Expedition 1 crew celebrated the first Thanksgiving on the International Space Station. The meal included ham and smoked turkey. Since then, Thanksgiving is celebrated every November from space. In 2001, Expedition 3 crew members celebrated their holiday with a meal complete with a turkey decoration. 2002, STS-113 and Expedition 5 and 6 crews had a meal on the ISS of turkey, mashed potatoes, green beans with mushrooms, and blueberry cherry cobbler for dessert. In 2008, the Thanksgiving dinner was reheated in the Space Shuttle Endeavour's food warmer. Expedition 18 and STS-126 crew members munched on candied yams, green beans, mushrooms, cornbread dressing, and a cran-apple treat. The following year, in 2009, 12 total astronauts from the STS-129 and Expedition 21 made up the most internationally diverse group, top of being the most number of astronauts in space that celebrated Turkey Day. Crews celebrated the holiday 2 days early since the Atlantis orbiter was scheduled to undock on Thanksgiving Day. The teams represented the U.S., Belgium, Canada, and Russia. So there's some information about how astronauts celebrate Thanksgiving in space. This is KFI PDS, Billy, your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Yeah, I saw your comment over there. Making me hungry too. It sounded like they had a pretty sumptuous feast up there. So I hope everyone enjoyed their Thanksgiving, and I hope that feast at home. Next up is Buzz Up. But before we turn over to Chaz, I'm going to turn over to Tom, KE5ICX. If you'll do a quick check-in round and see if is on frequency that needs to check in, and then you have my permission to turn the net over to Chaz for the Was Up segment after check-in. So this is to KE5ICX from KF5TDS.
All right, very good. I will do exactly that. This is KE5ICX, an alternate net control station for tonight's Skynet. I will take check-ins. If you've not already checked in, now's your opportunity. Please come with your call sign, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima, Brenda in Dallas.
Kilo Golf 5, Bravo to the Whiskey J, your weather.
Okay, picked up two more. I got WV50ZL, Miss Brenda in Dallas, and KG5BZWJ near Weathersford. Anyone else like to check in, please come now. Okay, hearing none. Next is Chaz, KF5JHA. Chaz, you're up. So what's up from KE5ICX?
Why, thank you so much, Tom and Billy. Slide Master, slide number 1, please. This is Chaz, KF5JHA, and we call this segment of Skynet What's Up because it's all about what's going on astronomically over the next couple of weeks. Slide Master, slide number 2. On November the 20th, the moon phase was first quarter, so the current phase of the moon is a waxing gibbous. The moon will be full on November the 27th. The moon is at third quarter on December the 4th. Also on December the 4th, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth at a distance of 404,346 kilometers. New moon is on December the 12th. On December the 16th, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 367,901 kilometers. Slide Master, slide number 3, please. November 25th is the conjunction of the moon and the planet Uranus. Wait, that's tonight. I don't think you can see because it's cloudy. You would have needed a pair of binoculars to see Uranus. And The moon was really close to Jupiter last night and is just on the other side of Jupiter tonight. And maybe you can see Jupiter and the moon between the clouds, but Uranus probably not. Slide Master, slide number 4. On November the 26th, the moon and the Pleiades, also known as M45, will be in conjunction in the eastern evening sky. Slide Master, slide number 5, please. On November the 27th, 28th, the November Orionid meteor shower peaks. This meteor shower can have around half a dozen meteors per hour just before dawn. You can get more information about meteors and meteor showers at the International Meteor Organization at IMO.net or the American Meteor Society at amsmeteors.org. Slide Master, slide number 6. On November the 30th, the planet Venus and the bright star Spica are in conjunction in the southeastern morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 7. On December the 2nd, the moon is in conjunction with the star cluster M44. M44 is also known as the Beehive star cluster. A pair of binoculars will make it much easier to see both. Slide Master, slide number 8, please. On December the 8th and 9th, Monocerid meteor shower will peak. This meteor shower can have around half a dozen meteors per hour just before dawn. Also on the same night, the Sigma Hydrid meteor shower peaks, and this meteor shower also has about half a dozen meteors per hour just before dawn. Once again, you get more information from the International Meteor Organization or the American Meteor Society. Slide Master, slide number 9. On December the 9th, the moon and Venus will be in conjunction in the southeastern sky. Now, the bright star Spica will be close and just above the moon and Venus on that day. That will be in the morning sky. Slide Master, slide number 10. Remember that we have another solar eclipse coming up in about 5 months or so. A solar eclipse is when the moon is in between the Earth and the sun, and for very few lucky people on the Earth, blocks out some or all of the sun from our view. Slide Master, slide number 11. On April the 8th, 2024 is the total solar eclipse for us here in North Texas. From the Brookhaven campus of Dallas College, the sun will be completely blocked out for around 3 minutes and 20 seconds between 1:41 and 1:44 p.m. That's Central Daylight Time. During that time, called totality, you'll be able to see the stars in the sky just as it were evening twilight, and you can look safely at the sun during that time, just during totality, without any optical protection. Now, the next total solar eclipse after this that's visible from North Texas won't be until the year 2317 on July the 9th. Yeah, put that on your calendar. So this total solar eclipse is a very big deal since it only happens about once every 300 years in North Texas. All of the downtown Dallas hotels have been booked solid for the last couple of months, maybe 3 months or so. In fact, there's going to be streets closed in downtown Dallas because they're doing an entire street fair. Kind of interesting. This is KF5, JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 12, please. Once again, the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting won't be until Friday, January the 26th, 2024, and the meeting will be held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas, and also held on Zoom. Featured speaker is Ken Sturrock, from the Denver Astronomical Society, and he'll be talking about, well, giving us a virtual tour of Chamberlain Observatory. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday night so that we'd have live reports from public observing sessions, but tonight's was canceled because of the clouds. It would have been at Rockwall. Slide Master, slide number 13. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have any questions or need to fill in any of the information? Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill. Okay, hearing nothing. Slide master, slide number 14. So as the moon waned a couple of weeks ago, so do these words of this segment of Skynet: stay safe, keep well, pray for our world. That's the only one where humans live. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment in Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. And this is KF5 JHA. Back to our net control. That would be Billy, KF5 PDS.
It says. All right, next up is space exploration and space. I will turn the net over to Brenda, WB5OZL. The net is yours from KF5 PDS.
Thank you, Billy. This is WB5OZL. First item in news, NASA is pausing all Mars missions effective immediately. This is a little bit dated. The red planet has reached solar conjunction as its orbit takes it to the far side of the sun and out of sight. NASA's Mars robots are on their own until November 25th. Of course, that's today. During the solar conjunction, an event which Earth and Mars experience every 2 Earth years, the two planets will also be at their greatest separation. Mars and Earth are usually separated by an average distance of around 140 million miles, and during the solar conjunction, Earth and Mars will be separated by around 235 million miles, more than 2.5 times the average distance between our planet and the Sun. During the solar conjunction, mission controllers on Earth lose contact with robotic Mars missions. Rovers grind to a halt. Ingenuity is grounded. Spacecraft do not beam data back to Earth. This is done to prevent the possibility of a partial command getting through that interferes with operations of the robots or spacecraft. NASA will hold off sending commands to its Mars fleet for 2 weeks, from November 11th to 25th, while Earth and the red planet are on opposite sides of the Sun, called Mars solar conjunction. This phenomenon happens every 2 years, NASA said in a statement. The missions paused because hot, ionized gas expelled from the Sun's corona could potentially corrupt radio signals sent from Earth to NASA's Mars spacecraft, leading to unexpected behaviors. Signals to Mars were halted on Saturday, November 11th, and will resume on November 25th. That's today. I assume they did. Next, scientists find hydrogen in Apollo moon rocks, suggesting astronauts can harvest lunar water. A fresh analysis of moon rocks brought home during the Apollo missions has, for the first time, revealed the presence of hydrogen. This finding suggests future astronauts could someday use water available right on the moon for life support and rocket fuel. Researchers with the U.S. Naval Research Laboratory, NRL, to whom NASA provided the lunar samples for a research study, announced last week that they discovered hydrogen in lunar soil sample 79221. The detected hydrogen is thought to have been brought into existence by incessant strikes on the moon. Per one NASA astronaut, it would cost thousands of dollars to launch a bottle of water to the moon. So to cut costs, ice on the moon can be used in situ as water for astronauts, and in fact may also be broken down into its components, hydrogen and oxygen, to be used as rocket fuel for journeys between the moon and Earth. Perhaps it can be used to bring humans to Mars, as well as someday, perhaps, beyond. Next, Mercury is home to exotic glaciers of salt, and they may host life beneath them. Scientists have discovered that salt glaciers may exist on Mercury, the closest planet to the Sun and the solar system's smallest world. Scientists from the Planetary Science Institute believe that these salt glaciers may create the right conditions for life, similar to some of the extreme environments on Earth where microbial life flourishes. Specific salt compounds on Earth create habitable niches even in some of the harshest environments where they occur, such as the arid Atacama Desert in Chile. Research lead authors and PSI scientist Alexis Rodriguez said in a statement, "This line of thinking leads us to ponder the possibility of subsurface areas on Mercury that might be more hospitable than its harsh surface." Birthdays. Eileen Collins, November 19th, 1956, flew on STS 63, 84, 93, and 114. Nicole Stott, November 19th, 1962, STS 128, Expedition 20 and 21, STS 129 and 133. Nicholas Patrick, November 19th, 1964, STS 116 and 130. James Dutton, November 20th, 1968, STS 131. Henry Hartsfield, November 21st, 1933, STS 4, 41D, and 61A. Gian Bluford, November 22nd, 1942, STS 8, 61A, 39, and 53. And Owen Garriott, November 22nd, 1930, Skylab 3, and STS 9. All right, this week in history. On November 24th, 1969, Apollo 12 splashed down at 2:58 p.m. CST near American Samoa in the Pacific Ocean. This wrapped up the second successful crewed lunar landing mission, boasting a pinpoint landing by CDR Charles P. Conrad and LMP Alan Bean in the Ocean of Storms region near Surveyor 3, while command pilot Richard Gordon orbited in CM Yankee Clipper 60 miles above. Also on November 24th in 2021, this is recent, it's DART, the Double Asteroid Redirection Test. It's a NASA space mission aimed at testing a method of planetary defense against near-Earth objects, NEOs. It was designed to assess how much a spacecraft impact deflects an asteroid through its transfer of momentum when hitting the asteroid head-on. The selected target asteroid, Dimorphos, is a minor planet moon of the asteroid Didymos. Neither asteroid poses an impact threat to Earth. Launched on November 24th, 2021, the DART spacecraft successfully collided with Dimorphos on 26 September 2022 at 2314 UTC, about 11 million kilometers from Earth. The collision shortened Dimorphos' orbit by 32 minutes, greatly in excess of the predefined success threshold of 73 seconds. DART's success in deflecting Dimorphos was due to the momentum transfer associated with the recoil of the ejected debris, which was substantially larger than that caused by the impact itself. And finally, here's another November 24th in 1947. This is the Aerobee launch. The Aerobee was an early sounding rocket that was essentially a larger, upgraded version of the WAC Corporal. It was one of two rockets developed by the United States Navy in the 1940s, the other being the Viking, to launch scientific instruments into the upper atmosphere. Between 1947 and 85, hundreds of Aerobees of different designs were launched, mostly from the White Sands Missile Range for both military and civilian purposes. Although the flight had to be terminated after 35 seconds because of excessive yaw, so many subsequent flights were successful that the rocket was soon renowned for its reliability, particularly in comparison with the V-2. Orders for more Aerobees from government agencies began to arrive at Aerojet. Aerojet has made various versions of the Aerobee ever since. All right, I'm finished. This is WB5OZL. Back to net.
Thanks very much, Brenda. This is KFI CBS. Billy, your net control for this section of the DAR Skynet. All right, next up is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. So at this time, I will turn the net over to Chaz to KF5JHA, the net is yours from KF5CBS.
Thank you again, Billy. Slide Master, slide number 15. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week is named in honor of Silent T, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012 until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Now, since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we have continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. Miss Carolyn's constellation of the week this week is Cassiopeia the Queen. Now, I've told you about the myth behind Cassiopeia in the past, in fact, several times over the last month or so. Cassiopeia is the queen, Cepheus is the king, Andromeda is the princess, Perseus is the hero, Pegasus is the flying horse, and Cetus is the sea monster. All of these characters are also constellations in the sky. Slide Master, slide number 16, please. The most important part of Skynet, the jokes of the week. Well, at least in my mind, the jokes are the most important part. Okay, here we go. The lobby of my local Dairy Queen was closed due to short staff. They should have hired taller employees. What did the king say when the queen gifted him a fool for his birthday? The king said, "I have no use for one of these, but it was a nice jest, sir." If there's a king and queen size mattress, where does the prince sleep? On the air mattress. What role does Queen Latifah play in The Equalizer? A vigilante. I don't even know if the TV show's still on the air anymore. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 17, please. Gamma Cassiopeia is an unstable blue giant star which throws off shells of material at random intervals. Gamma Cassiopeia is variable, and its brightness variations are unpredictable. These are two patches of faint nebulosity nearby, IC59 and IC63, which appear to be associated with the star. Miss Carolyn probably had several observations of this star. I recommend visiting the AAVSO, which is the American Association of Variable Star Observers, for more information about variable stars and how to observe them. Another star is Eta Cassiopeia. It's a double star found in between Alpha and Gamma Cassiopeia. William Herschel discovered the star's binary nature in 1779. This binary star is easy to split with small telescopes. The primary looks yellow and the companion looks orange. And we observe this particular double star on a regular basis at Brookhaven for the astronomy students. Slide Master, slide number 18. M52 Salt and Pepper Cluster is an open cluster discovered by Messier himself in 1774, appearing as a fuzzy patch in binoculars. In small telescopes, over 100 individual stars are seen, some with different colors. An 80-millimeter short focal length refractor shows M52 as an easy, noticeably round, fuzzy ball at 8 power with a single foreground star visible near one edge. 16 power makes it much bigger and larger and brighter, but no resolution. 24 power starts to resolve some of the brighter stars. Slide Master, slide number 19, please. M103, again, the M stands for Charles Messier's list of 110 different objects. So M103, this is a cluster that's not very dense. Binoculars will resolve the brightest stars in the group, making it a nice object for both binoculars and small telescopes. The cluster has a somewhat triangular outline shape. Therefore, it has been noted as a fan shape or having a Christmas tree shape. Well, wasn't that appropriate for the holiday that's coming up? A number of stars have different colors, making it a nice color contrast. In an 80 millimeter f5 telescope, the triangular outline shape is easily noticeable. With a triangular shape, with many fainter stars that are partially unresolvable. One bright star that is not part of the triangulum is a yellow-orange in color. Other stars are white or blue-white. It's interesting seeing all the different colors in one star cluster. Slide Master, slide number 20. NGC 457. NGC stands for New General Catalog. It's also known as the ALK cluster or the ET cluster, another very nice open cluster for binoculars or small telescopes. The distinctive outline of this cluster can be made out with the smallest of scopes. Many folks see the cluster as an owl with an outstretched wings. Others see it as an ET or the extraterrestrial holding out his arms. You've seen the movie, right? In either case, the two stars are Phi 1 and Phi 2. Cassiopeia they form the eyes. This is KF5, JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 21. Now, there are a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Cassiopeia the Queen. I've given you a few samplings of some of those objects. The Astronomical League has, at last count, 77 different observing programs, most of which have around 100 objects. Now, if you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 22, and that is Ms. Karen, my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research words on deep sky objects that I use, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now, next week we'll take another member of that cast of the story we're talking about earlier, Andromeda the Princess. And this is KF5JHA, sending it back to our net control. 73, everyone. It's all yours, KF5 PDS. Billy?
This is KF5 PDS. Billy, your net control for this session. Skynet. All right, next up is space launches for the week, so I'm going to turn the net over to Tom, KE5ICX. If you wouldn't mind doing a quick check-in round, see if there's anyone on frequency that would like to check in, and then he can give you a report about space launches for this week. This is KE5ICX from KF5PDS.
And thank you again, Billy. This is KE5ICX. I'll go ahead and take additional check-ins. If you have not checked in yet, we'd like to hear from you. Please come with your call sign phonetically, your name, and where you're transmitting from. Okay, hearing none, I'll go ahead and do my segment, which is space launches for this week, actually probably for the month and beyond. We do have, coming up November 27th, 28th, a couple of days. This will be overnight, Falcon 9 Starlink 6-30 launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch another batch of 23 second-generation Starlink V2 mini internet satellites. This one's been going on now for... The V2 has been going up now for about a year. These are more advanced satellites with higher throughput. Falcon 9 first stage booster is to land on a drone ship in the Atlantic Ocean. We also have on November 28th Electron, the Moon God Awakens is the name of the mission. Launch Complex 1 at Mahia Peninsula in New Zealand. The rocket Lab Electron rocket will launch the QPS SAR-5, also known as Tsuki Omi-1 for the Japan-based Earth Imaging Company, the Institute of Kyushu Pioneers in Space, or IQPS. This will be the 42nd flight of the Electron rocket, and it's the first since the launch failure in September. Rocket Lab has nicknamed the mission the Moon God Awakens. Then we have on November 29th another Falcon 9 launch. This is from Vandenberg at SLC-4E. A Falcon 9 Block 5 rocket will launch 425 Project EOIR Satellite 1 reconnaissance satellite from South Korea. The satellite is the first of 5 missions planned by the country's Defense Acquisition Program, or DAPA, for the program known as the 425 Project. This first mission is an optical infrared imaging satellite. 4 missions to follow will feature synthetic aperture radar, or SAR, and on board EarSat-1, Ireland's first satellite, the 2U CubeSat, which was funded by the Education Office of the European Space Agency. The Falcon 9 first stage of this booster is expected to return to landing zone 4 in Vandenberg. December 1st, the Soyuz launch from Baikonur Cosmodrome in Kazakhstan. The government Soyuz rocket will launch the 86th Progress cargo delivery ship to the International Space Station. This mission will use a rocket in the Soyuz 2.1A configuration. The USS F-52 will launch on a Falcon Heavy from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. The Heavy rocket will launch the USS F-52 mission for the U.S. Space Force. Falcon Heavy will launch an unspecified military payload for this mission. Then we have December Falcon 9 to be determined, Ovzon 3. This is another Falcon 9 launch, a small geostationary satellite for the Swedish broadband internet provider Izon. Originally scheduled to launch on Ariane 5, the satellite was moved to Falcon 9 due to delayed manufacturing, and they are, by the way, still doing testing on the Ariane 6 replacement. A launch on the 24th from the Vulcan and Centaur Peregrine. This is from SLC-41 at Cape Canaveral. This will be the United Launch Alliance Vulcan Centaur rocket will launch on its inaugural flight for the Peregrine commercial lunar lander for Astrobotic. Peregrine rocket lander will carry multiple experiments, scientific instruments, and tech demo payloads for NASA and other customers. The mission will also launch 2 prototype satellites for Amazon's Kuiper broadband constellation. The Vulcan Centaur rocket will fly in the VC-2S configuration with 2 GEM 63XL solid rocket boosters, a short-length payload fairing, and 2 RL-10 engines for the Centaur upper stage. We also have in the 4th quarter Falcon 9 ASBM launch. This will be from SLC-4E from Vandenberg. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch an Arctic satellite broadband mission consisting of 2 satellites owned by Space Norway. Falcon 9 will launch the 2 Northrop Grumman-built satellites into a highly elliptical orbit that lingers over the Arctic region. The satellites will carry communication payloads for the Norwegian Ministry of Defense and the U.S. Space Force and Inmarsat. We also have yet another Falcon 9 USSF 124 will launch from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral. This will be a mission for the U.S. Space Force and Missile Defense Agency. No other information on that one. 2 more. Are you ready? Another Falcon 9, Worldview Legion 3 and 4. This will launch from Vandenberg. No paths listed. Falcon 9 rocket will launch a second pair of Worldview Legion Earth observation satellites from Maxar Technology. They plan to deploy 6 commercial Worldview Legion high-resolution remote sensing satellites into a mix of sun-synchronous and mid-inclination orbits on 3 SpaceX Falcon 9 rockets. And then finally, an Atlas V launching USS F-51 from SLC-41 in Cape Canaveral. The United States Launch Alliance Atlas V rocket designated AV-101 will launch the USS F-51 mission for the U.S. Space Force. This mission will launch an undisclosed payload for the military. And that's it for me, Miss Billy, from KE5 ICX.
All right, next up is recent astronomical discoveries. So this time I will return the net to Brenda. OZL, the net is yours. KF5 CBS.
Thank you. This is WB5OZ, energy cosmic ray ever. In 1991, the University of Utah Fly's Eye experiment detected the highest energy cosmic ray ever observed, later dubbed the Oh My God particle. The cosmic ray's energy shocked astrophysicists. Nothing in our galaxy had the power to produce it, and the particle had more energy than was theoretically possible for cosmic rays traveling to Earth from other galaxies. Simply put, the particle should not exist. The telescope array has since observed more than 30 ultra-high energy cosmic rays, although none approaching the oh my God level energy. The observations have yet revealed their origin or how they are able to travel to the Earth. On May 27, 2021, the telescope array experiment detected the second highest extreme energy cosmic ray at 2.4 times 10 to 20th power eV. The energy of this single subatomic particle is equivalent to dropping a brick on your toe from waist height. Led by the University of Utah and the University of Tokyo, the telescope array consists of 507 surface detector stations arrived in a square grid that covers 700 kilometers squared outside of Delta, Utah, in the state's West Desert. The event triggered 23 detectors at the northwest region of the telescope array, splashing across 48 kilometers squared, and its arrival direction appeared to be from the local void, an empty area of space bordering the Milky Way galaxy. The particles are so high energy they shouldn't be affected by galactic and extragalactic magnetic fields. You should be able to point to where they come from in the sky, said John Matthews, telescope array spokesperson at the U and co-author of the study. But in the case of the oh my God particle and this new particle, you trace its trajectory to its source, and there's nothing high energy enough to have produced it. That's the mystery. What the heck is going on? And their observation that published on November 24th, 2023 in the journal Science, an international collaboration of researchers described the ultra-high energy cosmic ray, evaluate its characteristics, and conclude that the rare phenomenon might follow particle physics known as unknown to science. The researchers named it the Amaterasu particle after the sun goddess in Japanese mythology. The oh my God and the Amaterasu particles were detected using different observation techniques, confirming how rare these ultra-high energy levels are real. These events seem like they're coming from completely different places in the sky. It's not like there's one mysterious source, says John Beltz, professor at the U and co-author of the study. It could be the defects in the structure of space-time colliding cosmic strings. I mean, I'm just spitballing crazy ideas that people are coming up with because there's not a conventional explanation. Cosmic rays are echoes of violent celestial events that have stripped matter to its subatomic particles and hurled it through the universe at nearly the speed of light. Essentially, cosmic rays are charged particles with a wide range of energies consisting of positive protons, negative electrons, or entire atomic nuclei that travel through space and rain down onto Earth nearly constantly. Cosmic rays hit Earth's upper atmosphere and blast apart the nucleus of oxygen and nitrogen gas, generating many secondary particles. These travel a short distance in the atmosphere and repeat the process, building a shower of billions of secondary particles that scatter to the surface. The footprint of this secondary shower is massive and requires the detectors cover an area as large as the telescope array. The surface detectors utilize a suite of instrumentation that gives researchers information about each cosmic ray. The timing of the signals shows its trajectory, and the amount of charged particles hitting each detector reveals the primary particle's energy. Because particles have a charge, their flight path resembles a ball in a pinball machine as they zigzag across the electromagnetic fields through the cosmic microwave background. It's nearly impossible to trace the trajectory of most cosmic rays, which lie on the low to middle end of the energy spectrum. Even high-energy cosmic rays are distorted by the microwave background. Particles with, oh my God, in amateur energy blast through intergalactic space relatively unbent. Only the most powerful of celestial events can produce them. Things that people think of as energetic, like supernova, are nowhere near energetic enough for this. You need huge amounts of energy, really high magnetic fields to confine the particle while it gets accelerated, said Matthews. Ultra-high energy cosmic rays must exceed 5 to 10 to the 19th EV. This means that a subatomic particle carries the same kinetic energy as a major league pitcher's fastball and has tens of millions of times more energy than any human-made particle accelerator can achieve. Astrophysicists calculated this theoretical limit, known as the Zatseptin-Kussmann cutoff, as the maximum energy of a proton can hold traveling over long distance. The effective interactions of the microwave background radiation take their energy. No source for candidates such as active galactic nuclei or black holes with accretion disks emitting particle jets tend to be more than 160 million light years away from Earth. Researchers can analyze the cosmic ray composition for clues of its own origins. A heavier particle like iron nuclei or heavier have more charge and are more susceptible to bending in a magnetic field than a lighter particle made of protons with a hydrogen atom. The new particle is likely a proton. Particle physics dictates that a cosmic ray with energy beyond the GZK cutoff is too powerful for the microwave background to distort its path, but backtrack tracing its trajectory points to an empty space. Maybe magnetic fields are stronger than we thought, but that disagrees with other observations that show they're not strong enough to produce significant curvature at these 10 to the 20th electron volt energy, said Bells. It's a real mystery. The telescope array is uniquely positioned to detect ultra-high energy cosmic rays. It sits at about 1,200 meters, the elevation sweet spot that allows secondary particles maximum development, but before they start to decay. Its location in Utah's West Desert provides ideal atmospheric conditions in two ways. The dry air is crucial because humidity will absorb the ultraviolet light necessary for detection, and the region's dark skies are essential as light pollution will create too much noise and obscure the cosmic rays. Astrophysicists are still baffled by the mysterious phenomena. The telescope array is in the middle of an expansion that they hope will crack the case once completed. 500 new scintillator detectors will expand the telescope array with sample cosmic ray-induced particle showers across 2,900 square kilometers, an area nearly the size of Rhode Island. The larger footprint will hopefully capture more events that will share light on what's going on. This is from Science Daily. Back to the net. This is WB50ZL.
Brenda, this is KF5TDS. Bill, your net. see Skynet. All right, next up is visible satellite passages over the next couple of days. Tom, we probably don't have time for the full list, but if you would like to throw out one or two of the best ones coming up, then if you will do a final check-in round and turning the net over to Tom, KE5ICX from KF5PBS.
Yeah, very good, Miss Billy. I'll do exactly that. The International Space Station has, looks like one good pass, December 4th, minus 2.9 magnitude at 18:16 in the evening, just after sunset. It'll reach its highest point at 18:19, and it'll fall to the east at 18:21. Next up is Tiangong. That one has the Chinese space station, which just had a crew change, by the way. Let me see here. We have December 1st has a good minus 2.2 magnitude past 18:52 in the evening, reaches its highest point at 84 degrees at 18:55 and goes into shadow. December 3rd has a slightly better pass, a minus 1.0, a little lower on the horizon, 18:25 in the evening, reaches its highest point at 18:28, and it'll fall to the southeast at 18:31. Hubble Space Telescope has, let me give you one pass here. That one would be November 28th, 1.7 magnitude at 17:44 in the evening. The west-southwest reached its highest point at 40 degrees at 17:48 and fall to 17:51. And that's it. That's all I'm going to read right now. You can get all this information, of course, at heavensabove.com. Okay, I will take final check-ins at this point. If you have not checked in and would like to do so, now's your opportunity. Please come to your call sign phonetically, your name, where you're transmitting from.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth.
Okay, we picked up one more. We've got KB9SOK. That is Sean over in Fort Worth. And that brings us up to 22 check-ins, Miss Billy, from KE5ICX.
Thank you very much, Tom. And copy that tonight we had 22 hands participating on the air. So thank you to all who checked in this evening. We hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations and all the other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to net@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussion about this games, video archives, and other useful internet going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is KF5PBS, Billy, and I'll be closing the net at 22:29 local time and returning the repeater to normal amateur. Be free, everybody, and enjoy the evening discussion. Remember, following Skynet is the Afterglow Movie Net, which tonight we'll be discussing Nova of 2021 or possibly 2022. Anyway. So I imagine that net will start up in about 5 minutes' time. So 7-3, everybody. Have a good evening.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
And thank you, Billy, for doing the net. And you are absolutely right. We will be back in 5 minutes to discuss the movie Nova from 2022, let's say. Come on back then. 5 minutes. KE5I6. All right, you've had your break. Take your chances. Roll the dice, Chase. Takes your chances. I don't know. I don't know what that means. Doesn't matter. All right, it's time for the Afterglow Movie Net, which this week's movie is a not terrible, maybe not great film, but not bad. So it has a lot of not, and not in a bad way. Good way. So what is the movie? Well, this is one of these strange films with a very low budget that came out in 2022 or maybe 2021. We don't know because I get both dates here. But I tried to find something in here. I don't think there's a wiki. Oh, let me check and see. I don't think there is. Wiki, W-I-K-I, Nova 2022 movie. Let's see if there is one. I don't think there is. And the answer is no. There is no wiki to this. So, let me read you from a review what it is about so you have some sort of idea if you have not seen the film. So here we go. And this is KE5ICX. Film Threat says the following: a deep space sci-fi film, Nova seeks to push humanity to its farthest potential through the use of AI and android learning. The title character, Nova, played by Juliette Chevelle, is a high-functioning android programmed to protect her crewmates aboard an advanced starship in the distant future. Nova is accompanied by her creator, Abilene, played by Chase Pollock, Captain Flynn, played by Leela Anastasia Scott, and a host of other androids and military personnel on her voyage through the stars. After solar flares threaten the crew, Nova and her shipmates must prepare for an emergency landing on Mars. Now they must learn how to survive on this distant planet. Nova's existence and study of humanity are the central focus of director Dana Coden's screenplay. Most of the conflict comes from the captain's refusing to trust her android crewmates in addition to battling the ship's malfunctioning technology. As the narrative progresses, Nova grows close with a young crew member, Elena, played by Emery Menna, and begins to mentor her despite the dangers of their voyage. There are just a few critical plot points without diving into any subplots concerning relationships, AI, and isolation in the cosmos. All right, this is what they say. It says Nova has all the components of a good sci-fi narrative, even multiple ones. There's a stranded in space story, ideas of an android revolt, and even possibilities for flashy sci-fi adventure. Cowden makes the most of her micro-budget and poses several intriguing scenarios for our space trekking passengers. Many scenes are engaging enough on premise, though the plot rarely creates the tension needed for a proper payoff. Payoff summarizes the majority of the movie's problem. Here's the review part. The plot and themes lay a solid foundation. However, the story constantly feels muddled. There are never enough moments or depth for a character piece, not near enough philosophy, nor are there MacGuffins big enough for the plot-centered, spacey popcorn flick. From Nova's acceptance by the captain, the possibility of an android revolt, solar flares, and even character death, many conflicts lack the consequence or foreshadowing to make an impact. Cowden understands the tropes of sci-fi and shows a lot of promise as a director within the genre, considering the budget. Nova boasts some solid android effects and lovely minimalistic sets, but the sci-fi flick has its difficulty choosing a narrative and struggles to create a world. Often it is trying to introduce characters and conflicts the audience never gets an opportunity to familiarize themselves with beyond exposition. With a runtime of just under 90 minutes, this has to operate quickly, but unfortunately the best moments happen just before the closing credits. I'm interested to see the filmmaker's future within the genre as she fine-tunes her sci-fi prowess. Currently, Cowden's feature narrative debut sits in it as a pass, a light pass, but a pass nevertheless. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. If you'd like to join us and talk about NOVA from 2022, or if you'd like to just talk about Android revolts, we can do that. We did have Hal last week as the disembodied voice that tried to kill everybody in the first movie and then came back and had redemption in the second movie. In this one, we don't need a second movie. We have one movie where we get redemption at the end. How about that? But no exploding Jupiters. Just some exploding panels. That's about it. So I will go ahead and take check-ins. If you'd like to join us, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see NOVA from 2022? Please come now.
November Tango 5, Tango Mike. Tony, in Dallas. I did see the movie.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean at Fort Worth. Yes, I've seen the movie.
November 5, Bravo Bravo, Bill in Irving. Yes, I saw the movie.
November Victor 5, Foxtrot, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, I saw the movie.
Okay, let me grab those four. I've got NT5TM, Tony in Dallas. He's first on the runway. Yes, he saw the movie. KB9SOK, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, he saw the movie. N5BB, Bill in Irving. Yep, he saw it. NV5F, Virginia in Fort Worth. Yes, she saw it. Additional check-ins, please come now. Okay, I don't hear anyone, but I have a feeling there'll be additional check-ins a little bit later. But we have enough for a quorum, so we'll go ahead and start in order and going down the list. Our first round is all about the plot. What did you think about it? Did it work for you? Do you have, in Tony's case, he always has a better film to recommend. When he doesn't, then we've reached gold when it comes to cinematic film production. So we'll start with him, NT5TM. Tony, what did you think about the plot to our fine film this week? NOVA from 2022.
Well, thank you, Tom. I really did enjoy that little review you found and read because I rather strongly agree with it. There was a lot of potential here for a very interesting movie. It had a potentially very complicated plot with a lot of issues, sort of like, a Three Laws of Robotics story, and the survival of their shipwreck, and heck, even what's happening on Earth with the giant Carrington event that they got hit with in the world's least realistic solar flare. Unfortunately, just none of that got particularly deep or interesting. We can probably touch more on some of the reasons why in future rounds. But yeah, I was hopeful. I wanted to like it, and it just wasn't quite there. It did make me want to go reread some of Asimov's stories like I, Robot, but this is probably not a movie I'll watch again. NT5TM.
That was quick. Okay, next is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, what did you think about the plot for tonight's movie, NOVA, from 2021 or 22? We don't know.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Yeah, I agree. I think that little review you'd found pretty well did hit the nail on the head with this one. It definitely had a lot of potential. I didn't hate it. It did keep me engaged in it, but I didn't love it either. It definitely had that potential. It kind of, as Tony already mentioned, talked about the laws of robotics, but this kind of, it's like, they tried to cover a lot of ground here to kind of show, kind of each stage of the AI. We had our very basic AI robot that was just following commands, the guy that they had built. And then we had the AI that had base learning built in, but it hadn't really learned anything yet. And that particular robot took the commands literally and made a mistake, and then the one human got killed. But it really wasn't intentional, even though they did kind of, at first you weren't sure if it was intentional or not, but then you learned that it really wasn't. So that's, once again, kind of, that in-between stage. Then we had the one robot, which was kind of the, quote, doctor robot that decided that it was tired of humans and it's time for us to end, and it was going to orchestrate that. So now we're back to the warnings that we had seen so many movies about warning us about AI going bad and deciding they don't need us humans anymore. But then we did have the kind of the fourth scenario, which was the robot that had many years of learning, that it learned that, not all humans were bad, and we could coexist, and it really wanted to be a part of the team, and ultimately that was the one that saved everybody, which was obviously Nova, the star of the show. So it was kind of interesting. Typically, either of the robotic movies, we get one extreme or the other. We either get a really good robot or a really bad robot. And this one kind of showed us everything in between. So I kind of liked where they were going with it. I do think it was interesting in that respect. It just kind of just didn't quite complete any of those. I guess Nova probably, which was the star, kind of had the best storyline, I guess. We did kind of see kind of a long arc of what happened there. Yeah, the dialogue definitely couldn't have been a little better, a little amateurish. There's a little, there's some holes in the story a little bit. One, why didn't it, why did he have to kill? So, and there was a couple other small ones. But it is, like I said, there's more character driven. There's definitely more to talk about when we get to characters. But all in all, wasn't horrible. But I don't know that I'd watch it again. But I would say that it may, I'm kind of borderline whether I'd recommend it or not. It did have a lot of promise, and I really kind of liked how it kind of covered the gambit of possible AI scenarios. And hopefully Virginia paid very close to ditch this movie, since she's going to be building an AI for Johnny 5. Anyway, back to that, KB9 SOK.
Very interesting. Well, I think we'll get some interesting comments from Virginia about that. Next is Bill, N5BB. Bill, what'd you think about the plot on this one from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. Well, spoiler alert, I took significant notes. And if I take a bunch of notes, it means there's things I didn't like. So as some of the other people have commented, I wanted to like this movie. And one basic question I had, it looked to me like the speech was dubbed. I looked and looked, but I could not find where in the world this movie was made. I found comments maybe about a Spanish language version, so I don't know if it was originally in Spanish and dubbed into English. It was Buffalo Productions. It sounds like a U.S. company. I couldn't figure it out. But the mouth movements didn't seem to match the speech to me, if you look carefully. It looked like it was dubbed very well, but it was dubbed, so I'm curious about that. Okay. Things that bothered me. Costumes, a little cheap. Biggest thing that bothered me, gravity. Why do they have Earth gravity on this spacecraft? No reason. Didn't make any sense at all. Other thing that really bothered me, this movie was made 1 to 2 years ago, supposedly released last year. How did Nova connect into the computer? Via an RCA photo plug. An ancient technology that is just about 100 years old or 90 years old. Nobody would use a photo plug. That was the stupidest thing in the world, which means, just like a lot of the other production values, it was cheap, cheap, cheap. Let's see, other things that bothered me. They changed the video resolution to be very low when they were doing communications. Shouldn't be needed. Not like what they were showing. Stupid. That was a stupid effect. Also, when the ship's computer was talking, sometimes the audio was very distorted. Shouldn't happen. The spacecraft interior was very basic. The controls didn't look real. They looked like some made-up spacecraft controls that were very unreal. The tablets they were opening didn't have anything on them. They were just kind of sheets of plastic with a hole in the middle or something. And then things, I'll quote some things that were said. When they went to increase the speed of the spacecraft, let's stretch our legs. These are goofy things that was, again, this is all screenplay problems now. That's what I'm complaining about. Isn't the concept is the screenplay. After the solar flare, shields up. What the heck does that mean? That's just taken from some other movies, a TV show. It has nothing to do with what should be a movie like this. Brace for impact. Oh, come on now. They shouldn't have to. Number one, the solar flare wouldn't have had something that would have to brace for impact like that. Code red. We've heard that before, and it's shown very, very stupidly on these little flashing displays. When something happened to Nova, I think she may have shorted out. That's not a very good technical explanation, shorted out. Also, the ground control from Earth was explaining about some communication for the drilling teams in Mars. They couldn't get to it because they were on the dark side. No, they meant the far side of Mars, not the dark side. There is no dark side of Mars. It's always, never mind. And at one point they talk about the ship mainframe. Who talks about big computers as mainframe anymore? Other things that bothered me in the plot, when the doctor was shocked and died, there was no AED, automatic defibrillator machine. Come on. These are all over the place now. Certainly they'd have one of those right there. And also there was fumes coming out of his mouth. That didn't look realistic. And the self-destruct system counting down. Come on. What a horrible plot point. And such a ship, why would they have a self-destruct capability? It doesn't make any sense at all. So a lot of things on the screenplay were stupid, make no sense. The acting was fair to poor, not horrible. For some of the actors was okay. I thought the captain's acting was okay, but the screenplay was bad. That's what I say. Concept okay, screenplay bad, and cheap production values, which they were probably limited by their budget. That's all I got in 5BB.
All right, thank you, Bill. And so I'll give that one an enthusiastic thumbs up. You really like the film. Next is Virginia, NB5F. Virginia, did you like the film as much as Bill did from KE5ICX?
Thank you, Tom. Well, I think I probably liked it a little bit more than Bill, just a little bit. I'm wondering if Bill's planning on turning in early because he basically did all 3 rounds in one go there. I will I won't answer most of what he said because I'm kind of one of those people. I don't like to leave things hanging out there. I will answer the round 3. The movie was obviously made in English. There was no discrepancy between the words the actors were saying and, what their lips were doing. If there was some lack of sync, that could have had to do with a post-dub, which is commonly done on movies. Watch the whole movie Short Circuit, which is my favorite movie in the world, and some of the post-dub looping is not great in Short Circuit, but it's my favorite movie, so it kind of gets a pass. So I don't think there was any problem with that there. In fact, some of the audio in these lower budget movies is so horrible, you kind of wish they'd gone back and overdubbed it in a sound sort of neutral room, especially on the bridge of the ship. That set was so echoey, and they were taking nat sound from that, and it was annoying because that's one of the hallmarks of a low budget movie. Usually the sound is one of the first things to really suffer. But okay, back to the point. I did not hate this movie. One of the reasons I didn't was because they took a really simple plot and they made the plot in the time that it needed instead of trying to make it fill, 20 or 30 or 40% more of the time than it needed to fill. One of the biggest mistakes made in these kind of movies is where they only have an hour and 15 or an hour and 20 minutes worth of material, and they try to make it last for 2 hours, and it's excruciating. This was actually done, I would say, fairly efficiently as far as not having too much that didn't need to be there to advance the plot. So that I'll give it some kudos for that. The tropes were pretty, as Bill said, for a lot of those things. Some of it was like people who maybe don't know enough to not put every cliche of science fiction in a science fiction movie. So yeah, there was some stuff there where they're just, they're headed to Mars, which now everybody's got to go to Mars because, the moon, been there, done that. I'm still trying to, this may be a later round quandary, but I'm still trying to find out why the heck people want to colonize Mars. Still can't figure that one out. I think exploring Mars, cool idea, but colonizing it, that doesn't seem like a very cool idea to me. I liked what Sean said about how there's all these different, a lot of times the androids or the intelligence, the computers or whatever will have they'll all be the same as far as their reaction to, being sentient. And this had a good variety. You had all these different levels of development where you have the brand newly made android, and you have the one who's learning. And I am going to conjecture, based on a few of the nonverbal looks I saw by Reese, the sort of bad android or misguided android. I think she set up that younger android. Her name was Una, which made me think of Strange New Worlds. Anyway, I think she set that whole thing up. I think she threw Una under the bus to give herself justification. And there was a couple moments there where it appeared to me that was all orchestrated by Reese for Una to make that error, and for the doctor to be killed, and for her to be able to justify her hatred of humans and her mutiny, and to put herself in a sympathetic position and to win Nova's allegiance, which she did not manage to do. I thought I liked that the plot was simple. I could actually follow it. God, there's so many of these movies that are impossible to follow. And I also liked that it wasn't completely nihilistic. It had that feeling. I'm going to save some comments for what I feel like plays into that feeling for a later round. But I thought the acting, that's another thing that'll come later. But I thought that the characters, I should say, and the way they interacted, you know, the plot was okay. It was predictable in places, but I liked that for the first third of the movie or more, you were still kind of fuzzy about, are these androids good? Are they bad? Are they all on the same side? You know, you get a little bit of certain vibes off of Reese and Nova, and I liked the little plot about Nova and Abilene and their friendship and how it was on its way to possibly being something else. I liked that. I thought that had some promise. The ending was a little bit of a trope, but it was kind of a twist where Nova's kind of, they set that up at the beginning and it wasn't very logical. Like, oh well, if you link up with the ship via Wi-Fi or Bluetooth or a phone plug or whatever you're using, and you get too deep in there, you'll just, you know, that's bad, don't do that. And I was like, well, if that's bad, don't do that, then make it so that can't happen. But then that kind of has to be, that's the whole setup for the end where she goes and merges with the ship and stops the self-destruct thingy, and you know, so that was, I didn't see that coming, and that's where I'll address one of Bill's other things, talking about the distorted audio. That was how the ship was supposed to sound when it talked. It was supposed to sound computerized, because then at the end when Nova speaks through the audio system of the ship, she has that same sort of computerized, distorted sound, so that was intentional. But anyway, I'll stop there. I like I said, I didn't hate this. I think it's a one-time only for me, but you know, I found it watchable, and it moved along, and it had some ideas that were interesting, and I actually found the characters, you know, especially Nova and Abilene's, their little relationship that they had, I found kind of interesting, and a little bit, you know, there was some potential here, and it was evident to me that the movie didn't completely suck, because whenever we watch them on Friday nights, usually when the message thread gets real quiet, that means people are actually interested in the movie. So the thread was real quiet and slow last night. We weren't changing the subject too much. So anyway.
Very good. Thank you, Virginia. And boy, you hit a lot of points that I was going to bring up at some point, but that's perfectly fine. And even your last point, discussing the fact that when we watch the film together in chat, it gets quiet. People are watching the film, so you are correct. All right, before I make my comments, I'm going to ask for additional check-ins. If you'd like to join us this evening, please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see tonight's movie, Nova, from 2022?
This is Whiskey Bravo 5, Oscar Zulu Lima in Dallas. Name is Brenda, and yes, I did see the movie.
Okay, well, that's who I was really looking for, was you, Brenda, because I knew you were out there, and we've been chatting this evening. So you are next. Tell us what you think about the plot for our fine film tonight from KE5 ICX.
Thank you. This is Study B50ZL. Yeah, I noticed the same thing, that we all got quiet, and I said, you know, am I here alone? everybody go away? No, everyone was paying attention to the movie. I know I've said this kind of thing before. I like it when I can understand the movie, when it's simple enough. There are a lot of movies that I just don't follow. I don't know if I'm just not smart enough to follow the thing, or if they're not clear enough, or it's a little bit muddied. And I don't know. I suspect maybe the writing is not good enough to make everything clear. That it's not. It's more their fault than mine, I think, sometimes. I was prepared to hate this movie. It just, it had really a cheap look to it, a cheap set, no-name actors, nobody you ever heard of. A guy in a 12-year-old scientist in a corny hat named Abilene. Come on. I'm just not buying that. But, yeah, it really, I lay awake thinking about the issues, and this is something we've seen in so many movies. Is data a man or not? Or is he a machine? And something I think we're going to have to grapple with sooner or later is, when does a machine become sentient? What is the test for that? And I think they dealt with this. And, it was kind of interesting. You had one android that was had this seriously malevolent look on her face, and she was not a very nice person. And then you had another one that was extremely sweet and good-natured. You would think androids would all have the same personality because they're just machines, right? But, it's a lot of food for thought there. We're going to have to decide how much freedom you can give an android, at what point you give them autonomy. And I do wonder, why do they make robots look like humans? Young, attractive ones at that. I can see a time in the future where maybe it will be against the law for them to look like humans, that you have to have some kind of assurance that they are a machine. Otherwise, how would you know they are a machine? A stamp on the forehead, maybe? I don't know. But, you get to the point, like in Blade Runner, where the machine doesn't know they're a machine. Give them false memories and, a false history, and they don't even know that they are a machine. How could they operate under the laws of robotics, so-called, if they don't know they're a robot? It's an interesting question. Back to net, WV50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. And interesting. Well, I'll echo some of the comments that folks already made having to do with this. One of them is just simply sticking with the plot part, is that it was fairly straightforward, which I don't mind. I am not, you are not alone, folks, the collective you, when it comes to trying to figure out what the heck is going on in a movie. Sometimes with world building, which is very common in science fiction, we get lost in the details, or the details aren't made relevant enough or important enough for us to capture it, be able to understand what's going on. And that is probably one of the biggest banes for science fiction films, is the inability to connect the audience to the world that you're building and to the characterization and the story going on. Very difficult, and frequently films are panned for this very reason. 2001 was an example of that when it came out. Now considered a classic. When it came out, it did not get very good reviews. it got reviews as far as the technical aspects of the film, but much of the plot, the acting, everything that had to do with it, just people had blank, confused looks on their faces because they did not know how to understand or follow the film, because our director deliberately did not Dick and Jane the story and made it far more difficult for the viewer. It required a lot of thinking. So I think sometimes that happens accidentally, sometimes it's on purpose, but I think most of the time it's an accident. We don't get enough information to be able to actually enjoy and put the plot forward and be able to understand what the heck's going on. This one, not so much. We were able to get that out, and I also agree with the appropriate time it took to do the film. 90 minutes is perfectly fine for this film. You don't have to pad it out with a lot of stuff. There's also a comment that's more on the technical side about dubbing. Yeah, I'm pretty sure this film was dubbed. It is in English, I agree as well. The thing that happened is that, as you noticed, it sounds like the set is probably just an office building or something. It sure has a look of that. And the way the very square compartments it came out, it just felt like these were rooms that they were filming in. And with walls with nothing on them means that there's going to be a serious echo. And we got that in the main control room, several scenes, which was also mentioned, with a lot of echo and noise. I bet you dimes to donuts the entire film. Now, some points I thought that were interesting is typically with films like this, and we saw this in 2001 or 2010, just the last week, is that typically when you have like artificial intelligence or an android or a computer system that mimics human behavior, that the machine ends up being more human than the people. And we've seen that over and over and over again. And we do that, I think they do this mainly to provide or evoke sympathy for the androids or robots or computers in many situations. Other times we may make the robots or androids or computer systems so repulsive that we want to just blow them up. So we manipulate the audience in very crude ways to come across as, who's the good guys, who's the bad guys. This one wasn't so much. I actually like the way they treated it. I agree with the reviews and some of the comments that they could have probably done it a little better to further develop all characters, the androids and the humans. But what they did develop is that the bad guys weren't necessarily the androids, except for maybe, what was their name? Not Una, the other one. I can't, whatever the gal was with the strange voice. Reese, I think. Reese. She was somewhat unlikable from the beginning. However, Nova was sympathetic, and while I wasn't so sure about our Captain Flynn, as it turns out, she actually was somewhat sympathetic, especially after the daughter had lost her father, and she, sat and hugged her and took care of her because her father was no longer there, and made a deliberate effort. She also had reconciliation with Nova along the way and saw what was going on, and of course we had to have a plot point that would blow that whole thing up, which is understandable. But I thought all of those characters were likable in that sense. They could have done a little more with narrative to help pull this together. Now, it's a character-driven story, so I guess kind of the characters and the plot are going to be closely related in this, since there's very little in the way of special effects, very little in the way of story development. Everything's a ship in a bottle. It's on board the spaceship. The idea of having the androids on board and doing the things they need to do is curious. I would think that maybe that would be the case if they would do it. I thought it was interesting, though, that, and somebody else mentioned this, that you just turn the robots off, or the androids off. That would be the simplest thing to do, and then worry about whatever you want to do with them later on. I guess maybe because they needed the resources. When Una was turned off and turned back on, she performed functions at an elementary level, so maybe that is the reason they just wiped her, was that they couldn't afford to not have her there. So that's a possibility, I think. Let's see, girl, Lene, I think it was her name. I actually liked her. She was quite, as an actress, but that goes into it. Talking about the humanity and the future, she sort of represents the future compared to the jaded humans, the adults, and that things she could accept very easily. Nova, through the whole thing, and acted as an example, and that she actually did to help reconcile what was going on later on. So I thought that was kind of interesting too, that they could do that. I'm going to stop because I'm getting into characterization now, but it's kind of hard not to because that's all we had. We didn't have any major conflicts except for the terrible technology that kept falling apart. Maybe it was because whoever built the cardboard spaceship, also all the systems on board were not very reliable either. Sure had a lot of problems with that thing. Oh well. But, and we'll get into special effects and all that. I didn't think they were all that terrible considering what the micro budget that they had. All right. That's it on that, and probably put everybody to sleep. Let's go on to characterization, which is probably the heart of this thing. We'll start with Tony, NT5TM. Tony, what did you think about characterization and the acting on our fine film this evening?
Well, thank you, Tom. And yeah, I really appreciated Virginia's comment about the movie not being padded. That was some of the endless shots of people walking down hallways or driving down roads are just a common feature of bad movies, and they avoided that. They just kept on filming and then went to the next scene when that scene was done. So that was awesome. The characterization, kind of like the plot, they got a lot done, but there was a lot still to do. One of my common peeves with lousy movies is that I can't tell the characters apart. Who are you again? Oh, you're the police chief. Well, you sure don't act like one. Why did they dress you that way? What's your name again? Oh, I guess you're the villain. Everyone was consistently strong in recognizable attributes. I do this. I'm like that. I'm this sort of a person. It was nice to see characters learning. We had more than one dynamic character, which was great. So they got accomplished. However, I think that human factors were also a problem in this movie. I think that perhaps with more experience, the writing needed improvement. The acting was I guess adequate. Again, I could tell the characters apart, but it couldn't draw me in. It wasn't sufficiently engaging. These are people who are not brilliant, successful actors who are famous, and there's a reason for that. Partly because they couldn't afford to pay anybody, I bet. So it made two steps forward, definitely with their recognizability, the dynamic nature of some of the characters, the fact that I was never confused about who they were, even though the androids were all, a little bit similar, it was still fairly easy to tell them apart. But then it takes a little half step back where I think the director and the actors all needed to be just a little bit better at it. And I'm going to make one quick third round comment because I'm not sure if I can stay awake. Something that I hear in a lot of inexpensive movies, and this is even true in Office Space, because the sound, you have to do so much dubbing, and you need a sound stage is a very expensive thing to have, and recording booths are expensive and so on. the sound is often the last thing in a movie to be done well, is the sound when people aren't speaking. So as soon as someone talks, you start hearing more static and noise behind them. Office Space had some scenes that had really obvious noise gates popping open and closed in them, and this did too. So they sure tried. They sure tried very hard, but that was one technical thing I noticed in a lot of low-budget movies. So anyway, I'm glad they did take the 2 steps forward. It kept me watching at least because I could tell them apart. NT5TM.
Yeah, thank you, Tony. And that's a very good point. I agree with you. You can tell the characters apart. Your noise gate thing, you're correct about that. I deal with that at work all the time, trying to keep all the noise out. And we're right next to DFW Airport, so you can imagine what that's like with the aircraft, and right next to a runway. So, which is really cool if you're sitting out in the parking lot and watch planes land really close. But the rest of it is pain in the butt when you're trying to make movies or make videos and they've got the stuff coming in. Okay. Next up is Sean, KV9SOK. Sean, your comments on characterization acting for our fine film, Nova, from 2021 or 2.
Yeah, this is KV9SOK. Yeah, I agree with everything everybody said, and thanks, Virginia, for the clarification on the that most likely the Dr. Robot Reese was behind Una doing the bad thing. I wondered briefly about that, but then as they kept pushing the other narrative, that maybe it wasn't, but I'm sure you're right. That makes much more sense. So yeah, thanks for that. And I agree. The production values, were rough for sure. I tried to kind of put that aside because I've seen other TV shows, especially years ago, that where the production values weren't great. But if you like the story, you can kind of forgive that. And yeah, I chuckled pretty hard when, in fact, that wasn't even a phono jack, Bill. That was actually an antenna jack for a vehicle. I definitely got some laughs about it, but just kind of moved on. And probably the biggest plot hole I forgot to mention, which everybody else did, is just, how did she get lost in the computer? Why would she get lost in the computer just connecting to it? That part didn't make sense. On the characterization, I think it's already pretty well said. It was nice that the characters were distinct. I do think that with Abilene and Nova, we did get a pretty decent, we did learn about a lot about them. We knew that, they've been together since he was a child, and that explains why they have such a close relationship. And it obviously has slowly evolved over a while. And you can see where it was kind of going. It never quite got there. But you can definitely tell that, he definitely cared more for her than he did humans. And she definitely cared a lot for him as well. So, that was kind of touching. So that was we did learn a lot about them too, for sure. And, the Reese character, it never made sense to me from the beginning because she was angry from the very first scene, and we never really found out why, early on, why she had such a hatred for humans. And she said, I know she kept saying she was worried that the humans were going to get rid of her, but obviously something had to happen before their time even on this ship, because she was, from the very first scene, was, modifying Nova without permission, and just her attitude. I'm a little surprised that Abilene would have programmed her that way to have such just a nasty attitude. It wouldn't have corrected it, because that just doesn't seem, very friendly environment there. Not very good for work relationships either. They are designing them to work with people. That was kind of interesting. But as far as, using androids for space travel, I think it's, there's been many that have suggested if we're ever going to really explore space, most likely there won't be any humans. It'll all be androids and AI to go out to these distant galaxies and other planets and then report back. Of course, it's going to be, hundreds of years before they come back and tell us what happened. But, it makes the most sense that it's not where we're going to be able to explore at this current time because there's just no way to travel that kind of distance for humans. So it kind of makes sense that you would, any kind of long space travel, that you would want some assistance. Especially, too, it sounds like they were going to be used once they got to Mars for mining. Obviously, they could go outside and not have to worry about oxygen and that sort of stuff. So it made sense. So yeah, the Una character I think was okay because it was a brand new robot trying to learn. Obviously there wasn't much to learn because it was brand new, so that makes sense. The doctor, that was in charge of the drilling project. I thought he was okay, but it seemed a little strange because at first he kind of insinuated that he was in charge of everything, but then later the captain of the ship seemed to be in charge. So that there was kind of vague. But yeah, I do agree the plot wasn't, or the script wasn't the strongest. There was, the corny stuff that was said was definitely, picking, stuff from various sci-fi stuff and just kind of threw it in there. Some of it was just kind of ridiculous. But there was also some good conversations about the morality of, whether the relationship between robots and humans, who has the rights and who doesn't, So I thought there was some good conversation in there, but it was, I agree with you, Bill, there was a lot of unnecessary stuff that didn't really need to be in there. So that part was, But, the acting was not very strong, but it wasn't absolutely horrible. We've seen worse. I do think the captain was okay, a little overdone. I think the doctor was okay. I think the little girl did a good job. I thought Nova was decent. Abilene, maybe just probably okay. I wouldn't say great, but kind of what I agreed with before. Hasn't changed, so. Yeah, that's really about all I got on that round. I think all has been covered pretty well. Back to net, KB9 SOK.
All right, thank you, Sean. And let's see, next is Bill. Bill, you made several points on this section, but what else you got? N5BB from KE5ICX.
This is N5BB. Well, I tried to talk about plot the first time and not really talk about characterization. My earlier comments were toward the plot, which it's hard to separate sometimes plot from characterization, Tom. Let's see, some comments. Characterization. I agree with some other comments. I think the girl was great. In fact, to me, her acting was the most natural acting of the whole thing. I liked her acting better than anybody else's. Seriously. Maybe it's because they didn't overwrite her and she was able just to go and do things naturally. I don't know. Abilene, look, they didn't name him Tex. They named him Abilene. Well, come on. He was obviously kind of a hippie cowboy kind of guy. And that whole characterization of him was over the top and unnecessary. As for other characterization, Dr. Callahan, I was confused at one point. At one point, I thought there were two different characters that looked similar. A medical doctor, Dr. Callahan, and somebody with a similar name that was the leading the mining drilling, which is their mission, and that one of those had a daughter there. When they were working on Dr. Callahan, and they had they put him to the robotics lab, okay, and he was being operated on by Abilene, putting ball bearings in, and it didn't look realistic. It looked like cardboard and plastic. It didn't look like a human surgery. I was very confused by that. Combined with, after he was shocked, with fumes coming out of his mouth. So at some points, I was confused into thinking that he was a robot or an android, even though he had a daughter there. So something was confusing me about what they were showing me in the movie, the way it was written and directed. What else did I have?
I thought their characterization of Reese, the bad android, was just too far over the top, okay? Just like Captain Flynn was a little too far over the top, and Abilene was a little bit too far over the top. He was so, he was too easy about everything, Abilene, the roboticist. I think that Reese, the android, the bad android, was just too far over the top. So I think those were poorly written. They should have held back, and it would have been more believable. What else do I think about characterization? Something about the ground control guy that came on and talked to them looked kind of poor. It wasn't that he did a horrible job, but it looks like they just grabbed some guy off the street and said, "Here, read this and be the ground control guy." And as I mentioned earlier, I thought their costumes were poor. Inside BB.
Okie dokie. Thank you, Bill. Next is Virginia, NV5F. Virginia, what you think of the characterization and the acting from our fine film from KE5ICX?
Okay, thank you. Well, I talked probably a little more about a little bit about character in the first round, but yeah, acting's kind of interesting because you can have good actors with a bad script and not very good direction, and it just makes them look bad, or just not as good as they could look. I do think that the little girl she was pretty good. She was a pretty good little actress, and then I think a couple of the other people were, like I said, pretty good actors, but they just didn't have a lot to work with. It's funny sometimes. You can look back on the career of a really good actor, and you can find him in a movie like this and be like, oh wow, that's how they started. You never know. In 10 years, you might see some of these people in something bigger and go, oh yeah, I remember when I saw that little girl in Novo and she was like a kid or whatever. But yeah, I think the over-the-topness was typical of, not very subtle writing. This was a pretty stereotyped kind of sci-fi plot, and we had to have that conflict between the androids and the humans, and so we had this one android who hated humans and this one human who hated androids, and that was kind of, everything kind of swirled around that, and I think it was just an attempt at giving a real black and white, good guys and bad guys, so that you could have all the fuzzy stuff in the middle and, really work on those characters. But the captain did have an arc. She came to trust Nova, and then Reese, of course, being the bad guy, she was just, there's, I don't know, there's not a lot of backstory, but sometimes that can help with getting you, suspending your disbelief about, really, really over-the-top characters, if there's at least something explaining, like, why that person is like that. And there wasn't a lot of that on either one of them. There's a little bit of stuff about Nova and Abilene and their history, and, I see what they were trying to do with Abilene. They were like, oh, he's kind of eccentric, he's young, he's a young genius, kind of eccentric, but they didn't want to make him like a typical nerd, so they're like, hey, let's just have him wear hats, and have him have kind of a mullety looking hairdo, and I see what they were trying to get away from the stereotypes of like a brilliant scientist and make him look kind of like, well, he's kind of, he could be kind of cute and a cute young guy who's a little bit quirky, and so I saw where they were going with that, and I didn't really, he was definitely dedicated to his work and believed in what he was doing to a fault, and you know, his acting at the end when he knew that he was going to lose Nova was, you know, and when she knew she was making a sacrifice, she was sacrificing that relationship that they were headed towards, and, you know, because Reese decided to arbitrarily and unilaterally just go, oh, here you have feelings now, and I'm not sure where all that came from, but that was just so that she could have a personal, you know, arc with him. So, you know, you could tell the characters apart. The acting was okay. The extremes were a little extreme, but I thought there was probably more. The acting and characters had more to do with the, you know, the pedestrian writing and directing than anything else. I thought that the people did pretty good with what they were given, and there were moments where I almost actually started to, you know, viscerally feel things, and I'll talk a little bit more about that aspect of this movie in round 3. Back to Net in V5F.
Adele, Brenda, your thoughts on...
This is WB5OZL. Well, with some of the characters, it's like, I don't get it. You know, why was the captain so mean and unfriendly? Captain has to be able to lead and inspire and encourage, and she was just almost hostile, and she just kind of kept isolated there up in her cockpit or whatever that thing was, and it was unbelievable. It was this huge open space behind them, which I know was space where they needed the cameras, but as you know, cockpit, no, didn't look right at all. Yeah, it was cardboard sets. I get that. You don't have a budget. What are you going to do? But the android that was so angry and mean, it's like, why? You know, you didn't always understand the motivation. And Abilene, it's like, well, I'm trying to get away from people. It's like, why? You never explain that. And I think the worst thing you'd want to do is get on a cramped spaceship with some people and go to a Mars station where you're not ever going to have much privacy. You know, go out to Wyoming and live in a teepee. Why would somebody who wants to get away from people go into a spaceship? That's just nuts. I liked the little girl and her dad. I thought their relationship was just delightful, and she was one of the better characters so far as acting and being a believable character. Let's see. I thought the music was just really awful. I know that's not characterization, but it definitely didn't lend itself to helping the characters along. I guess that's all I've got. WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. I'm just going to move on and do my part here real quick. The acting was fine. I think the casting was a bit unusual. Maybe I missed something or whatever, but I thought our scientist, Abilene Lamb, was a bit young to be doing what he was doing, but I don't know. Maybe that's okay, and it fits closely with the androids and their supposed age, so maybe that was done deliberately. I don't know. I guess it was okay. Some of the other casting, because I guess the actors themselves are available for cheap. The Commander Salinger, which is played by Dakota Millett, at the time, I've seen a more recent picture of him. I guess he's got shorter hair, but he had kind of that long hippy-dippy thing going on, and it's chase, I guess. okay. I mean, but it didn't seem somehow right with what was going on. But who knows what happens in the future, right? I already told you about what I thought about Nova. I thought it had pretty good characterization. Acting was okay. Emery was I thought was quite good in it. Who was the daughter, and even the doctor wasn't too bad through the whole thing. We had a reason to like him. So overall, and since and Bill, I wasn't faulting you at all. I agree. It was very difficult, as I mentioned too earlier, that it was character driven. So it's hard to not talk about characterization and the plot without bringing in characterization, because that was a central part. It was the ship in a bottle story. There was nothing else external going on. Anything that was on the screen, and it lasted only a few seconds, and it was done. And it was just exposition to fill out some details for us, because we couldn't afford the special effects to show all that stuff. So I don't know. Overall, the acting itself, I thought, wasn't bad. It wasn't great in some cases, and there were moments where the actors were a little better at acting than at other times. And our secondary actors were pretty terrible. I will say that. They were just kind of bad. So I guess that's all I'll say about that. I already made my comments on the previous round. So let me ask, is there anyone else out there that wants to check in before we move to round 3? Okay, we'll go ahead and make it a full-blown round 3. This one is special effects. Anything you want to add that you may have missed the first time around that you want to comment on? So we'll start with Tony. Tony, if you're still there, NT5TM, round 3, whatever you want to talk about. This features special effects, of course, but whatever you want from KE5ICX.
Well, yeah, I think I'm about to fall asleep, but I don't know what to say. The special effects were very good for a student film, but they didn't really, I don't think they really contributed much to the movie, except for occasional distractions and moments of slight but unintentional humor. So, good night, everybody. Thank you for being here. I really like everyone's comments, and those effects were very cheap. NT5TM.
All right, thanks, Tony. Yeah, I hear you. I've kind of dozed off a little bit myself. I've been up for a long time. Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your final comments and special effects, if you'd like. Please go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. The special effects was definitely the weakest part, probably, of this film. You know, some of the things they used were completely hilarious. There's a few things I thought they did an okay job on. You know, I realized this was an insanely low-budget film, and I'm sure the director did this just to try to get their name out there, show them what they could do. And you do see that from time to time. But to be honest, I've seen some YouTube videos with better production values. You know, and my guess is they must not have hired anybody at all, probably have the money for any kind of technical you know, background to actually make sure that they were at least, you know, doing something more realistic. You know, even as Bill mentioned, that connector, you know, they could have just used a real more modern day connector. It made more sense. You know, being better, they just used a USB. So it was weird that, you know, they clearly, you know, the budget was horrible there. We knew the outside of the ship wasn't going to look good, so luckily they kept that at a minimum and didn't waste a lot of time with that. But even, I think it was even commented, in fact it was commented last night during the watching of this, that, you know, when they showed the outside stars and they was in the cargo bay and they showed the computer keyboard that was clearly, you know, covered with cardboard, and, you know, the indicator light was clearly it was just really, really poorly done. And, you know, it wouldn't have taken much to make it look better, even budget-wise. Years and years ago, back in the late 80s or early 90s, I used to do some plays in a town I lived in, and I was in charge of the special effects for those. And even we had no money. A lot of looking props for little or nothing that actually looked not half bad, and some of those were pretty rough. So that's not where the budget was spent. But like I said, I can kind of forgive it if it's got a good story. There was enough about this that it kept me interested that I kind of just had to turn a blind eye to the effects. Even if you look at the early Star Trek episodes and the cardboard they used when they were on planets, and if you watch the old Doctor Who's from the 50s and 60s, some of those sets were pretty rough looking too. Not quite as bad as this one, but but the story's good. You can kind of forgive that. But anyway, it was interesting. So looking forward to the next one. Back to net, KB9SLK.
Okay, thank you, Sean. Thanks for your contributions. And I have the movie pulled up here for next week. Next is Bill, N5BB. Bill, your thoughts on special effects? Well, you kind of had some comments, but what else you got for us from KE5ICX?
Well, thank you, Tom. This is N5BB. I agree with whoever made the comment earlier. Yeah, that wasn't an RCA plug. It was the old antenna connector on AM radios from the 1960s or 50s and 60s. It's like a center pin like an RCA or phono plug, but the outer is kind of a reverse gender thing. Anyway, it did look like something you'd be using now, much less in the near future. And the whole comments about she had to plug in because they had poor coverage. It's like they had horrible Wi-Fi there. That makes no sense. They were talking about a 100-meter range, and they were upgraded her to do that. I don't know. Personally, it didn't make any sense at all to me to need a direct connection, and it wasn't even using any kind of normal networking connector. I don't know. I didn't understand that at all. I agree with the comments about the cardboard quality keyboard and other stuff. They just picked up some stuff and tried to use it, and it was just crummy. And if you looked at any of the controls where they were adjusting the speed of the spacecraft and things like that, they were just kind of some things they picked up and just, I mean, some kids in high school would have done it better than that by far. It looks to me like there were no sci-fi fanboys or fangirls involved with this. Anybody that ever watched sci-fi, of any age, that watched various science fiction movies over the years wouldn't have made some of these stupid errors. They would have cleaned things up and not said code red and, shields up, brace for impact. That was just, I don't know. It's like somebody that wasn't really a science fiction person decided they want to make a science fiction movie. And they just thought about all these weird tropes that they'd heard over the years and thought it would be interesting. And of course, for anybody that's seen very many of the movies over the years, no. Let's make it more realistic. Don't put all that garbage in there. Let's see. Special effects. Other special effects. I agree. The one outside shot was pretty crummy. They had the area. What I didn't understand. The area where the captain was setting up the control area up there was in the front. But when the solar flare came, they were trying to aim the spacecraft into the direction of the solar flare because it was shielded better up there. But it didn't look like it was shielded better. It looked like it was wide open up there. And then there were two blue lit up things that looked like they were part of the Enterprise spacecraft. They just kind of stole from that. So, cheap. Anyway, I do think that the direction of the movie, keeping it moving, and the timing was reasonable. Other people made those comments, and I agree with them. This is N5BB. Originally, when I saw the character Abilene, the robot guy, the roboticist, and then his interaction with the captain, after seeing those scenes, I nearly turned the thing off and didn't watch the rest of it. But I was glad I watched the rest of it. Did I like it? Not really. Did I hate it? No, I did not hate it. Thank you, N5BB. Oh, by the way, there were too many Nova. I have an argument against the name of this thing. There's too many movies. There's another movie, science fiction, that has nothing to do with spacecraft, that came out in 21 or 2022 named Nova. And there's another Disney thing that was very popular named Captain Nova. Way too many Nova things, not to mention, of course, the PBS series Nova. N5BB, that's all I've got.
Oh yes, I know, Bill. That's why I said make sure you pick the one with the androids or robots in it, because there's tons of programming out there called Nova, including my favorite TV series, documentary series called Nova. Okay, Virginia, NV5F, you're up. Tell us from KE5ICX.
And what about Nova Robotics and the Chevy Nova and TV Nova, one of the first private TV networks in the Czech Republic? I mean, we could just go on and on. Well, let's see. Brenda kind of touched on my big thing for round 3, and that was music. And that is one of my biggest pet peeves with the entertainment industry in general, but especially science fiction movies of the last 20 years. What happened to music? Gosh, good music can make up for a multitude of sins. You can have a so-so story like this and so-so acting, and man, if you have some good music, it can really get you emotionally involved with what's going on, and before you know it, you can actually be having feelings about these people and their situation. I remember years ago, my brother, for some reason, loved the movie Gattaca, and I don't want to get into whether it's a good movie or a bad movie. I did not care for it, and one of the reasons I know that I didn't like it was I thought the plot was real dreary. It didn't make the future seem a whole lot of fun, but it was one of the first movies I ever remember seeing that had a minimalist soundtrack. And I did not like that. It gave me the willies. It made me uneasy. This movie, he acted like it was so motivational for him, and I just, and I don't like that trend. I don't like that, and the bad music and, cheap synthesizer music, like the stuff in this movie goes all the way back to the 70s and 80s, and I get that, but there's just a coldness to the music that doesn't need to be there. It doesn't have to have a lush, maybe John Williams type soundtrack, but man, good music. There was the one scene, I think it was a scene between Nova and Abilene, and there was actually like a cello in it or something, and I was like, oh wow. Oh no, it was the scene, it was during the scene about loss. It was one of the scenes where the characters, a couple of the characters were comforting each other, and there was actually like some depth to the music, and it added to the scene, and I was like, why couldn't we have more of this in like the rest of the movie? It just makes things so much warmer. You can also do that with lighting. You can do it with good sets. You can do it with a lot of things, but there's something about science fiction seeming to feel like it has to be cold and sterile, and even as so far as with the music. So that's kind of my big soapbox for round 3 on this one. Gosh, a little just better music could have saved the day here, or at least helped. And yeah, it was obviously a low budget thing, all the way from the soundtrack to the set design. And I agree with Sean. I've seen screen-used movie props in major motion pictures, and when you get close to things, they don't look nearly as good in real life as they do on screen. So it doesn't take a whole lot to make something look pretty good on screen. Okay, I'm done. NV5F.
I understand, Virginia. Okay, next up is Brenda, WB50ZL. Brenda, wake up! Your last chance to tell us what you think of our fine film, special effects and beyond, from KE5ICX.
This is WB50ZL. Well, nobody ever sets out to make a bad movie. I think their heart's in it. They can't possibly think they're going to get rich doing this with a low-budget movie, but they want to make a movie. But, there's just no substitute for talent. If you don't have a talented composer, your music is not going to be very good. Or the actors. If they're third-rate actors, it's going to show. And a lot of movies, there's just no budget. You can't pay for a John Williams or a bona fide actor. So you take what you can get for the money, and then you end up with kind of a mediocre product. I think this sort of suffers from that a little bit. Yeah, it would have been a whole lot better if it had great acting and great stories and great sets and so forth. I think this just suffers from the low-budget-itis more than anything. I think everybody tried, but they probably rushed it through too fast and started to make compromises when they started running out of money. And the backstories on movies are really interesting. Is you have people infighting and people leave, and people can't get what they want, what they need, and they probably look at the end product and says, this would have been a much better movie had I been able to hire some good set design people or good costumers or whatever. So, but for what it was, I think it wasn't too bad. I've seen a whole lot worse. So, would I watch it again? Probably not. But I wasn't sorry that I watched it. It kept my attention, and that's the important thing. Back to that, WB50ZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. I think our consensus is it was okay, but I don't want to go through it ever again. So, and we've had films where we went through it and probably needed, professional help after seeing it because it was so terrible. This one was not terrible. It was okay. My comments, the special effects in that were pretty, the little model, I hate spaceship models that are like, tiny, and they look tiny, and depth of field is terrible, and looks like a little toy, and usually is a toy, and it just takes it out. I also thought it was quite amazing that they taken and placed, a blue screen or a green screen up in the front of the cockpit, whatever you want to call it, the bridge, and in the process, as they move around, the stars move with the people. Obviously, it was an overlay. It's just terrible. If you're going to do that, you might as well just take and put some light in the background and do it old school or curtain or whatever like they used to do on Star Trek and move it along with the stars on it. It was very low tech on Next Generation, and then they got away with it over and over and over again. just to keep the budget down, because it was expensive to do those kinds of effects, but in the traditional sense. Now, not so much, because computers can way more powerful. But if you wanted to do a low-cost practical effect, you could have done something like that. By the way, the throttle, I think if you looked at it, I kept looking at the handle, and I thought, I recognize that from somewhere. It's two, from what I can tell, it looks like it is two pressure locks that you would have on a air pump that you would use. There's two of them back to back, and actually you could take and kind of put it together if you cut one of those things off and then just lock them together. You could get that handle and then glue it to the stick or whatever it was attached to. So that's what that is a heavy-duty lock system you would use on a high-pressure air pump. Let's see, other things. The special effects parts I think I covered. Sound, of course, we've already discussed that. I think this was filmed in, I don't even think it, I think it was filmed in an office building, to be honest with you. I don't think it was filmed on a stage. Maybe, the set with the bridge was maybe done in a warehouse environment or something. But everything else was hard walls. I swear it was probably an office building somewhere where it was done. Hallways and all. So that's probably why they had to do better. There were some scenes where they had worked the set and made it look good, but most of the time it was too damn dark. So lighting was not as good. This is one of the few times where actually the sound outshone the actual video quality, or the lighting, which is really kind of its own problem pit. So at any rate, I think, though, in all, I thought the film had some promise. Overall, it was not terrible. It wasn't really super great, but it was not terrible. And maybe whoever the director is will have another opportunity to do something with a bigger budget and better actors, and maybe show something off. I think she has the capability and the wherewithal to be able to do that. So this is probably a good learning experience for her. I keep an eye out for her in the future.
Repeater, timeout for 15 seconds. Timeout. Timer reset. Repeater enabled.
Oh my, it's after midnight. I forgot. Forgive me. So, at any rate, it didn't matter. I think you got the gist of the point. Okay, next week's movie is Trancers from 1984. This is a gruff bounty hunter travels back in time to the 1980s Los Angeles to stop a twisted criminal who can transform people into zombie-like creatures. Maybe the actors start out that way, so it may be a kind of a Konstantin Stanislavski method acting thing. And if that isn't enough, there was a second movie that came out called Trancers 2. So it was so good and so many people loved it that they had to make a sequel. All right, that's it from me. I'm tired. I got to go to bed. I got kind of a nap, but so we'll see. And I got to go do mandatory running tomorrow. So I'll see you all next time. Thanks for being a part of this net. We'll do this again next week. This is KE5ICX. I'll be clear. You guys can talk all you want, but I'm going to go to bed here in about 3 minutes. 7-3.